All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Adjustment September 22nd, 2015 meeting. Calling the meeting to order. Roll call of members. My name is Brad Walker, I'm chairman. Mr. Devin Graham, vice chairman.
Present.
Mr. Willie Robinson.
Present.
Mr. Mike Bro, not here. Mr. Brandon Bennett.
Present.
All right, Mr. Ed Crass.
Present.
Mr. Steve Joffrown.
Present.
All right. At this time, I'd like to open it up for public comment period. If anybody's got anything for or against the Board of Adjustments, please come forward. If you're here for something on the agenda, we do a public comment period for each agenda item. Please come forward. All right, closing public comment period. At this time, I'd like to hear a motion to accept the minutes of the August 25th, 2015 meeting.
Motion.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2015 meeting as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Do I hear a motion to accept the written decisions of the August 25th, 2015 meeting?
Motion.
Hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion and a second to approve the written decisions of the August 25th, 2015 meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, hearing the first zoning review ID 2540, .15 for lot 6-A-1 being portioned lot 6A of the James Gore tract for Christopher Brown, located on the east side of Roddy Road, approximately 300 feet north of J.D. Gotro. Somebody here represent that one? Come forward, sign in, and tell us what you're trying to do and what the hardship is, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Christopher Brown. I own the lot that we talked about just now, and I'm asking for a variance of, I think it's 20 foot off the back. I'm trying to get about 7.5 foot. I want to build a shop there. It's next to a shed, old broken down shed. Property owner behind me has some trailers toward the front of J.D. Gotro. There's nothing toward the back, no ditches, no power lines, anything. I actually maintain the shed for him as far as cutting the grass and keeping road and stuff like that out of there. I just want to build me a shop right there, 30 by 50, something like that. Finally financially able to do it, and me and my family sat down, talked about doing it, and then I was told I had to come here first.
There's like a building and a little pool behind it?
Sir?
Where you putting the building at, they have like a little pool or something?
No, sir.
I don't know what that is.
We have a
Something
little
blue color.
satellite map, and it's something blue, so we don't know if it's old pool.
Oh, that pool's to the right of it.
See like here, where they drew the map, right here?
Oh, that's a trampoline. It's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's where you're trying to build the building, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I currently have a shed there. There was a trailer there before, trailer house.
okay.
And when it got decrepit, we tore it down, moved it off. And I put me a little shed there, cook building. And now, financially, but I want to put a shop right there.
And so your side setback on the side is gonna be 5 foot?
Yes, sir.
Anybody got questions? All right, have a seat. We're gonna, anybody have any questions? We'll go ahead and open up public comment period. Have a seat, we'll open up public comment
Thank
period. If anybody has anything for or against this variance, please come forward. We got a light crowd, and I know half of them already very well out in the audience. All right, closing public comment period. Do I hear a motion? Discussion?
Yeah, my discussion would be to adjust it to a different number instead of 12 and a half to like a 10, something if he could do it.
Sir, you want to come back up?
Oh, okay.
So I was asking for 7.5. I was gonna ask for 5 like the side, but my property, drawings said
Yes.
7.5. So I asked for 7.5.
Yeah, and it's typically, it's 20, right? That's what,
Yeah,
Correct.
so. Yeah, I was thinking about the halfway point. I rode and looked at everything, so I was wondering if you could do a halfway point, if you could come forward any at all, or.
I mean,
I like that 10, I mean, it's just, I like to be that, get off your neighbor's property a little bit. Seems, 10 to me, I think is a good number in my opinion.
okay.
Anybody else got any thoughts on it?
Well, the reason why, there's the configuration, looks like that property behind you, that would actually be a side right there. So they could come up as far to 5 foot, right, on that side. So that's why if we do it 7, there's not gonna be much difference between the two. On that. That's what makes it unique. Any other discussion?
What were you saying about the side?
The property behind you,
Uh-huh.
actually, that's the side of the property for that property behind you.
Yeah,
Okay, so they can come up to 5 foot to the line without any kind of variance or anything like that.
oh yeah, they own the line.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is they can go up, so that's what we're trying to do is give some distance in case something happens behind it or with the shed or something like that, that somebody can get behind it fairly well. And that's why he was saying maybe 10 feet versus 7 feet.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I
You
mean,
okay with 10?
oh yeah, beggars can't be choosy.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a little distance because of that pole that I got right there
Oh,
set,
yes, sir.
and it wasn't gonna work with the 20.
You wanna make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we'll make the variance for 10 feet.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
This side's more talkative than this side. Okay, got a motion to approve it with a 10-foot variance by Mr. Devon and second by Mr. Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next zoning review ID is 2541.15 for lots PO-5, located on the north side of Amite River Road, approximately 300 feet east of the Diversion Canal Road. Somebody here to represent this one. Please come forward, sign in, and tell us what you're trying to do and the hardship, please.
Good evening. My name is Shane Rosselli. I'm the lot owner. I'm here to ask for a variance because of the unique shape of the lot, the unique size of the lot. And on the front, I call it the front, the river side of the lot, we have a bulkhead with tiebacks. And all of the contractors that I had come there and look at the lot and look at what we had designed have advised me to stay way away from the tiebacks. You don't want them to fail because in a sense, that's what holds up your bulkhead. And talking with them and talking with Lance, when I had originally requested the variance, I had requested 35 feet from the edge of the asphalt, which, as I'm understanding now, kind of really isn't where the asphalt actually ends. It's what the drawings show. And talking with Lance today, I think in the way he has it written up, when he scaled it out, it was 40 feet from the center of the road and 20 feet from the property line. If I take that 20-foot mark or that property line mark, that puts me about 3 feet away from the original spot where I had asked for the variance from. So I don't want to ask for something that I don't have yet, but I don't know the complications or if it's even an option to ask for that 20-foot to be reduced to a 17-foot setback. Is that possible? If it's possible to change, I would.
So what you looking for, 17-foot variance?
Well, it would actually be an 18-foot variance,
Right.
which would bring me 17
18?
feet
Correct.
from the
Right,
property
From
line.
the property line, yes. Instead of 20, it'd be 17.
And in effect, what
property line.
that'll do, where the camp is actually sitting, it gives them the radius to do their digging and pile work without being on top of or interfering with those tiebacks.
Okay, so the variance is 17 feet. That's what we're looking at.
It's 18 feet, right?
Or is it 18?
18 feet, 17 foot from the property line.
Correct.
18-foot variance, okay.
18 feet.
Okay.
And if it helps, it would basically line up with the front of the neighbor's house. And I did take some pictures of that to kind of show in real life how that would scale out and show we have a pretty good distance still
We'll put
from
them
the
on
road.
there? You got
Yes.
the pictures of it? Just one.
Okay, so this is the edge of the neighbor's house. You see this outside pile right here. That's where, if you come a straight line across there, this 18-foot variance would put me in line with him, which would still give, you know, a good span of distance between where the house would end and where the road would begin. And just kind of in the alternative.
So is
of
this
course,
considered the back of the house or the front of the house?
Well-
On the river?
It's the roadside, I guess. I call it the back of the house. My wife calls it the front of the house. But this would be the riverside of the house next to me. And you can see we basically have the same building, about the same size house, and we have the same size lot. And you can see if you kind of start moving too far, that really gets you right close to that bulkhead and those tiebacks. And I just want to avoid hitting those tiebacks or compromising those at all cost.
Okay. Any other questions?
I got a question for you. From the map I'm looking at, this overhead photo or something, looks like you own a lot across the street as well?
Yes, it's an acre-size lot, but you really have about a quarter of an acre usable on the riverside. Then you have Amite River Road that dissects the lot, and then you have the other 3/4 across the way. The land across the way probably is wetlands, just from a quick walkthrough of it. So I don't see anything really going up there other than it just staying treed.
The reason I asked was I was wondering if you would be able to have any parking over there.
There's some parking further down the street. I would want to get the Corps to give me the okay before I started doing that.
Okay.
I don't know if the people down the street got that determination or not, but eventually, yes, if it's allowed, I would like to try that.
Okay.
I know in the past we've done variances on both sides of this. Just because they can't go too far into the woods because they can't build anything in it. So we've done variances up to the road on that side for garages, like parking garages. So
Yeah.
I don't know with these lots, but I know I've seen Diversion Canal here often on variances to come closer to the road because of the river.
I was just wondering if we allow the variance, moving you closer to the road, it's gonna cut down on your parking, your weekend guests and whatnot, if you had any available across the street.
Well, the good thing with this, kind of like the neighbor's house you see here, I'm coming up, I think you're only required to go up 5 feet for flood level, but if I'm going to go up 5, I'm going to go ahead and go up 10, so I'll have all the parking underneath
Okay.
available.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, have a seat. We're going to open up public comment period.
Thank you.
If anybody's for or against this variance, please come forward. All right, closing public comment period. Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion to approve as written by Mr. Ed and second by Mr. Brandon. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Variance has been approved. Next zoning review ID, lot number 2542.15 for lot 2 of the Dickey Esquel property for Rishi Investments located on the north side of LA Highway 70, approximately 1,200 feet east of LA Highway 321. Anybody here to represent this variance? Nope. Did you hear, Lance, if they want to be here or not? Y'all want to move it to next month?
Yeah, I'm.
Anybody want to make a motion?
out of it?
I'll motion to move it.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion to move this to our next month's agenda, the October agenda, to hear it at another time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed? All right, this will be moved to the October agenda. You got that? All right, next zoning, our last zoning review ID is number 2544.15, lot WD-1-A-1, and the property of Charles Gotro, or assigns for Charles Gotro, located on the northwest corner of Airline Highway and Duplessis Road. So, I think Chris wants to say something about this.
Yeah, I just want to go on the record, excuse me. This is zoning review ID number 2544.15. This is the exact request that was already heard at the July meeting. We discovered some procedural defects in the notice prior to that meeting, so we went ahead and re-noticed it. It's the exact same request, but it's set for a complete new hearing tonight, so we can move forward with that being said.
Okay. Somebody here to represent this variance, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and it's good to see you all again. I think we all recognize each other now. We've been here a couple of times, and we appreciate your cooperation and listening to us one more time. We're going to try and cure whatever the procedural issues are. We've talked to counsel for the parish and for the board, and we're going to try to work through those. My presentation is going to be a lot more brief than it was in the past, but please don't misinterpret that. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Gotro, who is the actual applicant, is here again and would like to say just a couple of words to the board as soon as I'm finished just giving a very brief overview. First thing I want to mention is, as before, the staff has recommended approval of this variance, but let me explain exactly what's being requested now. We brought this before the July meeting, but a couple of the members of the board were not here for the July meeting. Our original request was to reduce the number of parking spaces by 41 spaces, and that was based upon the size of the building at that time. This request is for a reduction of only 12 spaces. However, another thing I need to point out, and we actually realized this after that presentation a couple of meetings ago. The requirement in the ordinances for Ascension Parish requirements require parking spaces of 9 feet in width. What we are proposing, with only a 12-space reduction in what would be required by the ordinances, are parking spaces of 9.5 feet in width, 9.5 feet. We realize that that's a very important consideration, we believe, for the board, because it's not a dramatic reduction. In fact, with only a reduction of 12 spaces, the parking surface does not reduce from what would be required under the Ascension Parish ordinances, because we are actually increasing the size. And there's a reason for that. Both Walmart and the developer, and Mr. Petrozello that you've heard from before is here if you have any questions for him that are of a technical nature. What they've learned over the years, particularly for this type of store, a neighborhood market, a grocery store, is with the more narrow parking spaces, that discourages people from parking in the interior parking spaces. And we all know what that's about. I've got an SUV now, but I just traded my pickup truck in. You don't go to the middle of the parking lane to park your pickup truck or your SUV. You're looking for the more outside spaces. So even in the crowded spaces, what happens is the interior spaces never get used. That doesn't happen with the wider 9.5 feet width parking spaces. We've discussed that with the staff, and I believe that's another indication of why the staff recommends approval of this very, very dramatically reduced waiver that we're seeking. The other issue I want to address for the record is, because you have asked what is the nature of the hardship for the variance. First of all, I need to mention, and we've discussed this with the staff as well and with prior counsel for the board, actually the Ascension Parish ordinances require, without any showing of hardship, that a variance of up to 25% for parking can be granted without any showing of a hardship. But if you want to go through the Board of Adjustment process, as we're doing, we will address the hardship as we've done in the past. The first hardship I would suggest to you is if you require, and I don't believe the staff would recommend reducing the size of the parking spaces as we've discussed. That would create the hardship not just on the developer and the ultimate possessor of the property, Walmart, but also on the landowner in trying to get this piece of property developed. The additional hardship that we've talked about before is the groundwater management issue. The other thing that your Ascension Parish ordinance has addressed quite favorably is groundwater management, surface water management. And as we've discussed before, and I'm happy to answer any questions, what you have is you have ordinances that encourage green space and discourage concrete impervious surfaces. So again, this is a very minor adjustment, a minor waiver that we're seeking, a reduction of only 12 larger spaces so that we can continue to try and dramatically increase the green space available on the tract as opposed to using it for groundwater management with impervious surfaces. The final thing I want to address is, and I only raise this because this was raised previously by our opponent, the suggestion was that there is some dramatic need for the total number of parking spaces that are required by the Ascension Parish ordinance. That is just simply not the case. That is just simply not true. And I would suggest to you that not only is it not true at this site, but recently the Board of Adjustment has granted waivers to other large stores, similar stores, including a Lowe's. There is another Ascension Parish Walmart neighborhood market that is actually about to be up and running that was approved. It wasn't approved under this process. It was approved under the PUD process of the Ascension Parish ordinances and does provide for a dramatic, much more dramatic waiver of the parking requirements than you see here. In addition to that, the suggestion was made that you need every one of those parking spaces on busy days. And gentlemen, you may recall the very specific example that was given was that last time we talked about this, you were given the example of the July 4th weekend, a busy weekend. Well, it just so happens that the July 4th weekend came after that presentation. We actually retained an engineering firm to go do a parking study at the LeBlanc's store on the July 4th weekend, on successive days for successive hours. And they did an actual parking count. There was a measurement of the parking spaces. The LeBlanc's only provides 9-foot parking spaces, but then they did a parking study and a parking count. And they found that only approximately at its busiest time, a half of the LeBlanc's parking lot and parking spaces were used on what they themselves suggested was one of the busiest, if not the busiest days or weekends for shopping centers or for grocery stores at that location. That's just simply not the case. And what we can suggest to you is Walmart, and the developer in this case, have done studies all over the country. They absolutely know they do not want one less parking space for their store than is necessary, because all that serves to do is chase customers away from your store, not attract customers to your store. But what you want is you want available parking with a wider spacing in an appropriate number. We believe the appropriate number is far less than 4.75, which is what we're requesting in this variance, and a reduction of 12 spaces. But we have, and I might also mention, we've actually reduced the size of the store, because the suggestion also was, you're building too big a store and that's why you can't meet the parking spaces. We heard that. We've reduced the size of the store, which ultimately reduces the required parking spaces, and even with that, all we're asking for is a reduction of 12 spaces. For purposes of the record, we actually produced to the board at our last meeting the actual engineering study of the parking at that facility on the July 4th weekend. And I would ask that that be offered again into the record of this proceeding, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. And if you'll bear with me, I would just like to ask Mr. Gautreaux, the actual applicant here, just make a couple of very brief comments to you. And I'm here to answer any questions that anybody might have. Mr. Gautreaux?
Good evening, gentlemen. I was here at the last meeting trying to state my case, I guess. I really walked out of here thinking that it had passed already. I didn't realize that we didn't have the 4 votes we needed. So it kind of shocked me coming here again today. But we've tried this. We've been here like 4 times already. And we're just trying to get it right to where you're comfortable with what we want to do. And I want to turn the property over, of course. But it's nothing but business to the Payless, or to the LeBlancs, rather. They don't want nobody there, and we can understand that, but they have a choice. You have a choice. You can go where you want. I'm sure that Walmart wouldn't want them right across the street like they are in Gonzales, but it's just business. And I'm here to ask for you to grant this grievance so we can get ahead with this property and move on. And I'd appreciate anything y'all can do for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? You want to open public comment period first?
Yeah.
All right. Let's open public comment period. Anybody have anything for or against this variance, please come forward, sign in.
Good evening. I'm Erin Lanou. I'm an attorney for the LeBlancs, Marcy and Randy, who were just walked in. They own the neighboring property. A little bit of history. As you know, this has been here, now we're here for the 4th time. Walmart has returned to the board 3 times since we filed a lawsuit to overturn the variance that was granted in October of 2014. And I'm going to stop for a second because I'm noticing he put the time limit on me. I didn't notice a time clock running on when Walmart was doing their presentation, so I would ask for a little bit of leeway on my presentation. Thank you. On June 23rd, we came. The LeBlancs spoke in opposition, and the request was denied. It has not been appealed to district court. The development code specifically states that this board's actions are final and binding on all parties. Yet on July 28th, they came again to request a variance from minimum parking only. The only difference is that they adjusted the parking ratio. They changed it from 4 to 4.7. Thus, but they still need a variance. Walmart has apparently conceded that the decision that was made at the meeting was not effective for whatever reason. Therefore, we're here again tonight seeking to have less parking spaces than required by the code. What they failed to do again, we've been here 4 times, is show any unique circumstance or unnecessary hardship as required by the code. The fact remains the proposed construction, even in its scaled down form, is just too large for the piece of property that they're building it on. Just to quote your code again, the authorization of variances should only be sparingly used. While the applicant has set forth that a 4.7 ratio is more than what they need for the development, that's not what the standard is in the code. And if the code, it needs to be changed, then this is not the way to do it. It needs to go before proper parish council, planning and zoning. I'm sure your legal advisor can tell you how that can be done. The code also specifically states that it was the parish council's intent that a variance be used only to overcome unique circumstance or exceptional physical conditions. They have not made that showing. Further, the code specifically states that the hardship cannot be self-created. Perhaps most important, your code states that an unnecessary hardship cannot be established by someone who purchases the land knowing of what the limitations are with zoning. Walmart is asking for this variance when they still have not purchased the property. They've been here 4 times and they're still refusing to purchase the property without this variance apparently being granted. With all due respect to Mr. Gautreaux, he's a nice man. I've been knowing him a long time. He's not the one who's going to build the Walmart. Walmart's the one that's going to build it. They're aware of the parking restrictions. They can find another piece of property. LeBlancs have no problem with a business locating across the street from them. They've, they understand competition. That's a prime piece of property. I'm sure if another business came in and did not request the variance and built there, they would have no problem with it.
We'll give you 1 extra minute.
Okay, and just to urge, whatever happens tonight, I'm sure will ultimately be in litigation and joined with the matter that's still pending in litigation. I just think that the wise decision would be to deny this request and have it ultimately decided by the courts. Thank you. I believe one or
Next.
more of the LeBlancs want to comment.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I think I want to go back to a couple of months ago, and I was using an analogy involving this 4th of July issue, and it was really about, the analogy was between an ice machine and parking. And the stories I told, as my grandfather told me, you got to make sure you have an ice machine big enough to handle the busiest day of the year. At no time did I say 4th of July is our busiest time of the year. It is one of our busier times of the year, but not the busiest. So let's go back about a year and a half ago. We opened this store. And the first day we opened, at the time we opened, the only retail establishment open was the supermarket. The parking lot was poured. The parking lot in front of the future retail, now current retail units off to the right, that parking lot was poured as well. So all that additional parking was available. The required parking was available when we opened that store. That was our busiest time ever, grand opening. In addition to all of that parking, and if you ride by it and look now, you will see gravel poured to the left. We had to pour additional gravel for the overflow business. Fortunately, we owned that land. Fortunately, we were able to handle the overflow business. I'm not sure where Walmart would put an overflow for a grand opening or a major sales event. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up. This parking issue is what this is all about. Thank you, gentlemen.
Anybody else?
Marcy LeBlanc. I'm one of the owners of the property. And I guess I'd go back to, this is the 4th time we come back for this situation. And yes, it involves parking. But, you know, it also involves where this is located. And I know y'all all have visited this site. And the only thing I can tell you is the traffic in this area is really, and I'm going to use this word tenacious because it's a funny word in our company. When I say something is tenacious, it's really in bad shape, or it really needs to be reacted to. And the area that they're trying to develop, and ask y'all to make some decisions on the parking, the traffic is really, really bad. And if there was a reason that I would sit here and make sure that they're abiding by the parking rules, it's the traffic that is located in that area. And to say how much green space you want or how much green space you need, I don't really know any of that. I know if, you know, the 9.5 parking spots or the 9-foot parking spots, the code says 9, that's what we did. They could, if they say that there's enough to make 9.5 to 9, then maybe they need to redraw the plans and come back to y'all again to go from 9.5 to 9. But I'm not an engineer, and I only can look at the plans. And if you got 18 spots and you take a half a foot, you get 9. But if you got 15 spots and you take a half a foot, you don't get 9. So it wouldn't qualify for another parking spot. So just understand that, and understand that it's really, we abided by the rules. We followed them. We went and did everything we were supposed to. And we just feel like it's not in the best interest of the parish to allow anybody to not follow the rules. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? There's only one other gentleman in here. All right. Closing public comment period. Any questions? Motion?
I got a question here. We're doing just the parking?
That's all.
Yeah, it's just parking, right?
I'd like to say a few things. In the beginning, you know, I believe I joined the committee or the board in the middle of this action or property transaction. And in the beginning, it seemed as if, from my perspective, honestly, the property was too big. I'm sorry, the property was too small for what you were trying to achieve. And coming in and asking for 41 spaces, I thought was ridiculous, honestly. And I know from personal experiences going to the grocery store, I try to park as close to the door as possible. Sometimes it's inconvenient, but I've never gone, honestly, to a Walmart or a grocery store in general where I couldn't find a parking space. Now, the Mall of Louisiana is probably the only place that I've personally experienced a place where I literally had to drive to find a space. Now, 41 spaces is an awful lot. So we, I believe, denied that. And then you guys came back and you cut down 2,000 square feet of your store. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But when you trim down 2,000 square feet of your store, the spaces went down to 12, according to the calculation of the 9.5 feet per space. So technically, you know, when I asked the question before, you said that those spaces could fit under the parish's code but it was, I believe, a Walmart policy to not put that. So that's why I personally voted for that. But honestly, Walmart probably has more resources than most of us in here, if not all of us. And honestly, when you guys were looking for the property, you probably should have looked for something a little bit larger that could have accommodated what you originally came here with. But the fact that we're beyond that, and we are looking at a surface parking lot that has those spaces, I voted for it, and I'm going to stay consistent with my personal views on that because I believe that the space is there. I mean, it's a Walmart policy to have the 9.5 spaces, and I'm thankful for that because look at the vehicles that could be scratched up or damaged and so on and so forth. So I know we're not into the voting period, but that's just my personal feelings on the matter, and that's where I came in. I know that there were some other requests that I was against, like continuity. You know, I feel like we all should be connected, as I'm sure, I believe from our other meeting, we discovered that most of the board members felt that way as well. But on this one, I'm personally okay with it because of that. So.
Any other discussion? You're quiet tonight. All right, do I hear a motion or?
I'm motion to approve it based upon the 12 space variance because I really think that is a realistic number, and I understand the hardship and I'm okay with that. But in the very beginning, if we went back to the very beginning, which I wasn't a part of it, so it's hard for me to, you know, I suppose it's hard for me to hold you guys to it because I came in midway. But in the very beginning, if it were me and I were with Walmart, I would have found another piece of property. I don't feel like it was right to the LeBlancs to try to make that fit. That's just my personal views. But hey, look, it is what it is at the end of the day, and the law is the law. The parish is okay with it. They're saying their request is to, or their recommendation is to approve it. It's 12 spaces technically. If we go to what the parish law states, it'll all fit. So I'm okay with that. I'd rather not have my vehicle scratched up. So I'm going to vote for it.
So as written, because that's kind of long for me to write.
I'm sorry. So I motion to approve the variance.
As written?
As written.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right. have a motion by Mr. Ed, second by Mr. Brandon to approve as written. All those approve?
I'll approve it. I'll third it.
All right, all those against?
I'm against it.
I'm against it.
All right,
If it's not going to be unanimous, we got to have a roll call vote.
okay, let's do a roll call vote. Patrice?
Against.
For it.
For it.
For it.
Against.
I don't need to vote, do I?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, so motion has been approved.
Chairman, can I visit with you, counsel, for a second?
Sure. Yep. Yep. Maybe John needs to play a little music. To what?
I thought so.
I thought I got it wrong.
Okay, Mr. Walker, we just have an issue, and we're just going to ask that you go ahead and vote on the issue to clarify. There's an issue of quorum and a majority, and we just need to ask that you go ahead and issue a vote on the issue.
If I vote, I would vote deny,
Okay.
which you do know creates a tie.
Mhm.
Okay, just letting you know. All right, we good? Ready to finish the meeting?
We're good? Yeah.
Okay. All right,
We'll handle it in court.
go to old business. Anybody got any old business? Nope. Any new business?
Sir?
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Willie, finally got that emotion in, huh? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Steve? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote on that one too, yeah, adjourning. All right, all those against? All right, nobody against adjourning. All right, we are adjourned.